Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today and welcome to Distance Learning with Common Sense. My name is Vicki Saylor and I'm the Arizona Regional Manager for Common Sense Education. Today, I have a very special guest with us. We have Rocío López, our very own Rocío López, and she is the Manager for Community Partnerships for Common Sense Latino based out of Los Angeles. Hi,
Hi,
Rocío.
how's it
There you
going?
are.
So happy to
Good.
finally join in on one of these fireside chats.
Well, we're so excited to have you. And before we begin, I want to remind everybody out there that this conversation will be posted to our Common Sense Ed YouTube channel, along with all of the links and other resources shared. We also have slides that we'll be sharing with you. So sit back, relax, and take this conversation in because it will be fast and it will go quick. So I want to hear from Rocío. So let's begin. Rocío, you are a woman of many talents, but I would love for you to share your story and your background with our guests today, with our participants, and just let us know a little bit about the work you do for Common Sense Latino and how your background has impacted that and has motivated you to do what you do.
Yes, I love the work that I do, that I get to do with Common Sense and in reaching families, specifically Spanish-speaking, monolingual Spanish-speaking families. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this work, I know, is because I feel like I am a product of parent outreach, parent education, and a little bit of about me. I'm first generation in this country. My parents migrated here from Mexico, from central Mexico, Guanajuato to be exact. And they were migrant farm workers. They lived in a very rural area, mostly farming towns. And my hometown is like 5,000 people. And I really benefited from programs like Migrant Education, who did a lot of parent education and parent outreach and ran a lot of different programs in my community, from after school programs to early childhood and the Head Starts. And I benefited from outreach programs from the neighboring universities such as Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and UCSB. They would send tutors out to the schools to mentor these, young daughters and sons of farm workers, and to really educate families on, and motivate them on, how they can support their children's learning and development. And so I feel like my family and me, like we're a direct result of parent outreach and parent education. And so I think that's why the work that we do with Common Sense in wanting to provide all of these free resources to parents in the digital age and how they can navigate this digital world, that's so important to me. It's very personal to me, especially that we make all of the resources available to and accessible to first generation families, to immigrant families and Latinx families, especially our monolingual Spanish speaking families. So I'm very proud of the work that we're doing.
Well, you're doing really, really great work. And I, along with so many others at Common Sense, share your background. And I agree, it's such an important component to your work to be able to identify and really have that compassion, because you know firsthand what it's like to be a first generation Latinx member of our society. So I hope we're okay. I think you can hear me. If not, let me know, Merv or Rocío. But we're going to go ahead and continue with the conversation because Rocío has a lot of great ideas to share with you. And again, if for whatever reason we can't hear her, you will have a slideshow with all of the links and resources that she has provided. She has created a beautiful deck for us. So just rest assured that you will have all of the information there in that slideshow. So let's go ahead and continue with when it comes to communicating. You were talking about being able to reach families and the importance of of how you had that education and your parents had that parent education. When it comes to communicating, what do we need to keep in mind? What is can you give us some ideas and some reminders on what we should keep in mind when we are trying to communicate with our Spanish speaking families?
Part of my job with specifically in the Common Sense Latino team within Common Sense, we really try to think about our Latinx audience. And what do we know about our Latinx families that are bilingual? There's Latinx families that only speak English because maybe they're second, third generation here. There's Latinx families that are first generation who, that only speak Spanish in the household. And so for the purposes of this conversation today, I would love to think about specifically our monolingual Spanish speaking families. And even within that group of parents that we know, oh man,
You might want to
I know I see a lot of people that are frustrated about the audio. I apologize.
Don't look at the chat.
I'm going to
okay.
stop my video.
Yes,
How's
stop
that?
your video. I didn't want to interrupt you, but stop your video and let's keep going. Are you there, Rocío?
All right.
Okay.
Yes. Can you all hear me?
Yes, just keep going. You're good.
All right. So I was wanting us to think specifically about our Spanish speaking families and what do we know about our monolingual Spanish speaking families, especially? We know that if they're monolingual Spanish speaking, probably that means that they are first generation in this country. So already we have that information. If they're first generation immigrant to this country, maybe they are, or if they might be living in rural places, then maybe they're farm workers. So I think that every school and community and district can really think about specifically their Spanish speaking parent community, and what the needs are specifically for them. And I think that's where we can start to really gather information about the families that we're trying to reach. And then we can think about what's the best, most effective way to reach them. Because even, right. Even in, Latinx communities, it's very, very diverse. Are your families from central Mexico, or are they from southern Mexico, such as Oaxaca, where there's a lot of indigenous roots, and those families coming to the US that are working in farming towns. And for a lot of those communities, Spanish is their second language. So I think the more that you can really engage with your families and find out where they are from, what are their cultural roots, what is their access even to Spanish, then we can start to think about the resources that we're giving them and how to make them the most accessible.
Right. And you bring up a good point about how diverse the Latinx community is. Even in Spanish speaking communities, a lot of times they don't want to be referred to as Latino or Latinx. They want to be referred to as their place of origin. So for example, they want to be referred to as Puerto Rican or Mexican. And so finding out what your families want and need and how they identify is so important in building those relationships. So I'm glad you brought that up. So important to do those needs assessments before you plan your strategy. So after you do the needs assessment and you get to know your families and what their needs are, and you're being very sensitive to that, and you're making your plan, what are some resources that we can share with those families? Do you have any tips and advice for us there?
Yes, definitely. So with at Common Sense, we've really been thinking about how to reach our working families. And this could be any ethnicity really, but how we could reach our working families that are not necessarily on laptops. And, I'm thinking about, the families that, I'm thinking about my family. I'm thinking about the immigrant farm working families that have a smartphone, but might not have a desktop or a laptop. But they have a smartphone. And so what we came up with is, let's send our tips and advice to our families via text. And so we've developed a texting program where now parents can receive the common sense tips and advice directly to their text messages, directly to the palm of their hand in a bite-sized, practical format. And that's what I would love for everybody to check out. I think we're going to add the landing page to learn a little bit more about our text message program. It's called Tech Balance. And we've been developing it over the past year. And we have found that it's becoming a really effective way to send tips and tricks and advice to our families in a very, very accessible way. And so this program is available in English or in Spanish. So parents can choose whether they want to receive the tips in English or in Spanish. We send about 2 to 3 messages per week. And we'll send you the slides where you can get all the marketing materials for this program if you want to, promote this program in your schools. If you all want to sign up right now, please go ahead and do that. You can just send the word kids to the number 21555. Or if you want to receive the content in Spanish, you can send the word familia to the phone number 21555. And that's it. You can opt out at any time by sending the word pause or stop. I also have to say message and data rates may apply. By law, we have to say that. So just, tell your families, check their plan. If families have unlimited plans, which now is the norm for most providers, then they're good to go. And we're really curating content, especially relevant for parents of young children. But we're starting to expand because we have so much content for kids of all ages. And now we're also sending our content from Wide Open School, which is, I'm sure, hopefully most people have heard about Wide Open School and all the amazing educational content that we're sending out for online learning.
Yeah.
But now we're sending it to parents right to their texts.
Yeah. And somebody was asking, is it appropriate for high schoolers? And I can safely say, as a parent of a 23-year-old and an almost 19-year-old, I'm even signed up because I get these tips directly to my phone. I'm busy. I work for Common Sense, but I'm busy and I don't necessarily have extra time to go and search for these tips and strategies or advice. So as a parent, I really appreciate it. And I think they're really relevant even for older kids because like you said, you're starting to provide more and more resources. But if you think about it, even having a reminder on having a device-free dinner, did you put your phones down today and really enjoy a meal together with your family? I think anybody at any age can appreciate that. So, and you did mention Wide Open School, and that is our newest offering. We do have materials in Spanish as well, right? That we can share with parents on that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, there's a whole tab and section on Wide Open School that's all in Espanol, and we're sending the links to that programming directly to people's phones, so that sometimes. And again, this is thinking about families that if we send them to a site that might be overwhelming for some families.
Mhm.
So what I try to do in the way that I curate the content is for example, this Monday coming up, it's Indigenous Peoples Day this Monday. Well, on Wide Open School we have a whole list of fun videos and educational content for children of all ages. So I'm going to send parents the link just to all of that content celebrating Indigenous cultures so that they can engage their children in some of those videos and fun, entertaining, educational content. So
Mhm.
I'm really proud of what we're building with this program. And I wanted to back up a little bit. I know we only have a few minutes left, but I wanted to, I have this is kind of like my 3 steps when thinking about how to make content accessible for families. I take inventory of the resources that I have. I assess the structure of how I'm going to send it out to families. So in this case, I might have a whole article with all of these advice and amazing tips. Well, I know that a lot of my families, they're not going to read the whole article. So my new structure is going to be, how do I turn it into a bite-sized way? So that's my new structure. smart, practical bite-sized tips via text. And then I think about the access. How am I going to make that short, bite-sized practical tip very accessible? So I create an image, I add color to it. I give them the top 3 tips instead of the top 10 tips, because even top 10 tips could be very overwhelming. So I just pick the top 3 and I send that in the colorful image via text. And when I think about access, I'm also thinking about, uh, creativity, visual. Is it entertaining? Is it uplifting? Is it motivating? A lot of times, as educators, we just want to, we have the best intentions and we want to give our families the best, but sometimes we want to give them too much. And sometimes we want to ask of them so many, we ask of them a lot, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So my lens and perspective is really to just give them the tips, no strings attached. This is for you to take it in and for
Right,
you to think of, we're planting seeds, and it's for
right,
parents to be the experts of their own households and think of how they're going to apply it. And
right. Right. And this is, you're talking about the resource that the materials that you include for Tech Balance, but you could apply this to anything that you're sending to your families, keeping those points in mind. Keep it, short, to the point. We also spoke earlier this week about keeping our language at a level, at a reading level that's appropriate for our families, and not making it too complicated. We need to make sure that we don't use a lot of acronyms and teacher lingo, because we really want to communicate effectively. And then you also talk about using texting for Tech Balance, but then there are also other apps that a lot of teachers are using right now. They're using Talking Points, or they're using WhatsApp. Our Latinx community really love those apps. And if you don't know about those apps, I highly encourage you to check those out. Talking Points is a multilingual app. So if you are not a Spanish speaking teacher, you can you can text the message to them in English and then choose the language that you want it to go out in. Then they can respond in their home language, and then it'll translate it for you in English, which I think is really cool. And I wish I had that when I was in the classroom. But thank you for sharing so many great tips and strategies, Rocio. Are there any last words that you would like to share with us? Or, you did mention the 3 steps, but is there anything else that you want to tell our participants before we wrap up?
And one other thing that I would love, for all of us, as an educator, provider community to think about is how we are making our virtual webinars accessible for our families. And again, I'm thinking right now specifically for our Spanish speaking families. I know that, Zoom offers, the breakout rooms for translations, but I really do want to challenge us to think, translate a direct translation of whatever, the English material might be. That's really thinking of, like, the equality. We're giving all of them the same thing. And, translators are very, very, very well trained to say exactly what, to translate exactly what they're saying in English to Spanish. But it's not always relevant, and it's not always transcreated. And that's what I would
Right.
love to challenge us as educators and providers, is to transcreate the content and really think about how we could, in addition to those translated virtual events, provide a more personable experience for Spanish speaking parents by having webinars that are just in Spanish, and really think about how we're providing equity and meeting families where they are. When we have and we have schools and districts, the language, or not only know Spanish, but know the vernacular of that specific Spanish speaking community. And so that's where I would like to, leave everybody at is think about how we're making our webinar and virtual events also very accessible for those families, so that they not only feel like they're just attending, but so that they can also feel that they can participate.
Right. And, I know we're all stretched for time, but if that's something that your school can provide, if they can provide, or if you can provide as an educator, a Spanish presentation, whether it's in person when we go back to brick and mortar schools, or if it's still online, if you can provide those parent talks or those parent workshops. I know some people have parent universities or cafecitos, like little coffee talks. If you can provide those just in Spanish, instead of providing them in English and then having a translator, that's what we're talking about building relationships and making people feel welcome. You want all of our families to feel welcome. And we did get a question earlier. I received an email, I can't speak Spanish and I don't know how to deliver these. If you can't, lean on those support systems that you have in your school. Sometimes there are parent liaisons available, support staff like paraeducators. Some schools have parent educators, or they also have parent volunteers. And, lean on support. You don't have to do it all by yourself, but the end goal, like Rocío was saying, is to challenge ourselves to be more equitable and to be more welcoming. So thank you for reminding us, Rocío. That is such a great point. Love it. Well, I think we're maybe about out of time. Rocío, did you want to add anything else? Or you mentioned Hispanic Heritage Month. We're so excited that we're able to highlight. That's another thing we talked about highlighting your Latinx students. We talked about that, about how important it is to elevate and highlight our Latinx families and our Latinx students, right? And look at, you are a product, I'm a product of, of what we're talking about today, right? And I wish that it would have been a little more equitable for me when I was growing up. I was growing up in California as well, and it wasn't so accepted to speak Spanish or to bring your Spanish-speaking parents to school. It wasn't as acceptable. And our parents, in my case, I was told not to speak Spanish. I was told that I needed to just speak English because I would get in trouble if I spoke Spanish. So it's been a journey to get back to my bilingual abilities, but let's hope it doesn't happen to, students now. Our world is so diverse. There's really no need or room for that. So let's just, provide that welcoming environment and, like you said, put that lens on and challenge ourselves to really provide an equitable and welcoming environment and education, right? A culturally rich education for all of our students. So,
and Vicki,
yes,
absolutely. And Vicki, if I can take just like 15 more seconds to encourage everybody, if you're not already doing that, you definitely should. We have a whole YouTube channel and Common Sense Latino, and the link is on the slides that we're sharing.
Okay.
But all of the videos are created, not hundreds of videos on there that are super short, practical, gets to the tip, and I hope gets to the point. And I would hope that schools and district communities are sharing them consistently on their social media pages as well, because that's another thing. We know that a lot of our families are consuming content, are getting their information from social media such as Facebook, WhatsApp. So please, it's a quick link that you can just send out, and boom, knowledge in the palm of your hand for these families.
Yeah, they do. They love YouTube. So check out the YouTube Common Sense Latino YouTube channel, and social media, and So thank you, everybody. We're so happy you joined us today, and thank you, Rocío. This has been a really rich discussion and a very much needed discussion. And happy Hispanic Heritage Month to everybody out there. If you are a Latinx teacher, thank you so much. And to all of our other teachers, thank you as well.